Maru presented here with a kind of interesting decision. Though this hand is really not that bad, actually, although it's fairly expensive. Just being able to go Coin Innovate Plague as a surprise play with an Arcane Tyrant thrown in there as well is very powerful if your opponent's hand is not that fast. However, I think it's probably the right way to go for Maru. Look instead for cards like Twig, Spellstone, 3-mana Wild Growth, Wrath, just anything to do with the early aggression from his opponent.
Maru's ended up with just this hand of nothing, though. I guess Twig is going to come in handy when played. Maybe even next turn. Do you think that's a potential strategy for Maru? Just get that Twig out on turn 2 and break it as quickly as you can.
That's one of the strongest plays you can make with this modern Druid now. It's just that's how you get your Rampus through Twig. Do you want to know what my superpower is?
What's your superpower, Derek?
When I've gone Diamol on 1, Crackling on 2, I have never missed plus attack once in my entire life. I hit plus attack every single time. Like, I'm not good at much in life, but hitting +3 attack on a Diamol on turn 2 is my biggest superpower. I hit it every time, I swear.
I can think of more useless superpowers, but not many.
Not many, yeah. I mean, fair enough. And it's about to become completely obsolete once Adapt leaves the game, but even so, for the next couple of weeks, I am a god amongst mere mortals. As well, Maru's not opting to go with the old Coin Innovate Twig, which would have still allowed him to kill off the Razormaw, it's worth saying.
Misha looking pretty solid for Yansu there. Maybe he'd have liked the Leok for the 2 extra damage that turn, but Maru just has no way past this bear at the moment.
Yeah, he's got nothing. That Misha is looking pretty scary. And especially his next turn, we could see a Crackling Razormaw for the +3 attack. Maybe he'll learn a lesson from the Master and get 8 damage through the face. But for the moment, like you said, Maru just has a whole lot of nothing. I mean, I think his plan is to go next turn, double, Innovate or Coin, whatever it is. Innovate, Coin, Plague. That's basically how he's trying to win this game. His hope his opponent overextends on the board this turn, and he gets a surprise Plague for 3 or 4 Scarabs. But even then, I don't think that really does all that much. Very, very slow turns indeed from Maru. And with Divine Shield, Taunt, and Poisonous optioned to Yuansu here, these are definitely not what he was trying to hit. I guess Poisonous is, yeah, probably the way to go to play around that Plague. I quite like this decision. As Divine Shield, your 1/3 doesn't really matter if it survives against a Wrath or something like that. He's never targeting it with spells anyway, so just make it a little bit more offensive.
Maru's just not getting the good defensive tools here. I mean, Spreading Plague looks weak played this turn, frankly.
It looks so bad. That mole takes out 2 Scarabs and survives. That's awful.
And Maru doesn't even have a way to deal with that hyena.
Yeah. For all he knows, his opponent has Bring Paw or an Unleash the Hounds, which would just make that devastatingly powerful straight away. It's just too scary. So still from Maru, absolutely nothing. While the kill command I think has to be tempting for Yuansu, I think he's probably just making his opponent think he is not picking Rexar here before he inevitably picks Rexar.
I mean, if there was ever a game where you don't pick Rexar, could you make the argument that this is that? Because Kill Command could just round this out very quickly.
It could, but I think you're in such a good spot already. You have such strong aggressive potential that why not play around the chance that your opponent goes swipe, or Plague Tyrant, Fluke Tyrant, or something like that. Like, you just need the value, I think, because at the moment your hand, it's all right with the one copy of Savannah Highmane, but I think the potential to just go so late into the game with Rexar is more valuable.
What?
Whoa! He's taking a double Highmane. I mean, because he already had one in hand, I did that, but this now means Yuan Su is going super aggressive now with this double Highmane. This is one big gambit he's making, which is admittedly likely to work out. He's in a great spot against Plague. The removal doesn't look all too strong for Mario right now. But if this doesn't work, he's looking pretty high and dry. And I mean, it's worth saying as well, against the very expected play from your opponent of spreading Plague, the Rexar would just be good here.
It would allow Yansu to just comfortably clear up pretty much everything.
Yeah, and keep a board.
But even without the Rexar, he clears up most of this board and still slams the Savannah Highmane. He's still okay against the second spreading Plague as well.
But just give himself the option, right? Like, he still has Highmane. He could have played Highmane anyway.
Oh, Timberwolf is looking good here. As is the second Hyena, actually.
This board, however, from Yuan Su is looking significantly more spicy, as even with a ramp play from Morrow on this turn leading up into an ultimate infestation, it's just way too slow. He's going to die long before that happens.
And this is just an example of the real power of this mid-range Hunter deck. It's only turn 6, and look what it's come out with on the board. It's also beaten a spreading Plague already. That's insane. There's a rather silly amount of stats on the board when you think about it, and also when you consider that every time one of Yansu's minions dies, like if his Misha dies, okay, both Hyenas get buffed.
Yeah.
Double Swipe wouldn't even clear the board here because of how much the Hyenas would buff themselves.
Yeah. And so, for Maru, the fact that he can't go double innovate, like if he goes Plague this turn, he then can't go double innovate UI next turn, which is so devastating. So he uses both innovates here to protect a Scarab, because that only had 1 health. The Wind Fury didn't affect it anymore. I don't know, man. Like, I can totally understand how this was just looking miserable for Maru from get-go, because that Misha in particular, which meant he couldn't have just smacked the Twig face to reduce the durability. But I wonder, like, I just feel like before he knew that the Misha was there, coin innovate Twig, he'd be breaking the Twig on this next turn.
Yep.
He might be dead by then because he'd already have used the innovates, which would have just killed him off. But I think he had to just pray that he had some kind of a miracle scenario there.
If it's sort of the only out, then yeah.
Yeah.
On the other side, though, Yansu, those Savannah Highmanes are still both sitting there in the hand. It doesn't look like the pick ended up mattering whatsoever because
Yeah.
Maru's not surviving these hyenas. But it's very interesting. And I still agree with you that the Rexar would have been better than Highmane, and I still would have considered the kill command as well. It took him a long time to make the decision.
It did indeed. I mean, it was a tough choice. But there we go. I mean, that was a pretty rough game. Maru's hand really didn't do much of anything. Even with the double plague, it was much too late on in the game. Maybe if he'd gone for the twig earlier and if his opponent had, things could have worked his way. But I think with the way it all shook out from his opponent's side, there was little that Maru could have done there.
But this is sort of what happens when you don't ban mid-range Hunter. It is one of the strongest decks, if not the strongest deck, in the meta right now. And it is going to tear through at least one or two of ORD's decks. They need to find themselves a counter to the Hunter now. And I know you suggested that maybe the Taunt Warrior was maybe their best shot.
Against the Hunter, yeah. I mean, like, this is the thing, is Hunter is one of those decks, in my opinion, similar to even Warlock, where all the matchups are just fine. It's got a couple of miserable matchups, a couple of really good matchups. The vast majority of them are just fine. And so Odd Warrior, like, obviously if they miss Rexar at any early point, you're probably in a really good spot. But that's far from the only avenue of victory. It's still just a deck that has very strong potential in the early game, in the form of Hyena in particular, which Warrior can struggle to deal with. And double Highmane. He's playing double Highmane in the deck, which is fantastic against a control Warrior. But even so, this is clearly ORD's best chance, in their opinion, to take it down with what is not a particularly strong counter, I would say.
No, absolutely not. The Hunter still has the potential to do what it did in that game and just overwhelm the Warrior. I guess there are the counters like Reckless Flurry, like Brawl, these little ways in which the Warrior can survive that a little bit longer and maybe get to their win condition. I guess you can argue that the Ragnar's Hero Power can win the game before the Rexar zombies can do anything.
Yeah.
But it's not a matchup I'd like to take as a counter.
Yeah, I mean, I guess some of the things work in favor of them. Double Town Crier just to get a little bit of board pressure early on. And obviously Super Collider can deliver you a huge amount of removal in the mid stages of the game. But basically they're going to have to pray two things. That first of all, a devastatingly powerful start isn't gotten off to by WE. And then second of all, no Rexy Boy, of course.
Well, Yonsu does have the killer curve here.
He does indeed. That pickup of Diamol really makes this a lot more palatable. Let's see if he can... There we go. He hits the Daruk that time.
The Daruk.
Plus the attack on the mole, as I have deigned to call it. I think there was some consideration there for going for Hyena first and then adapting that instead. But with a hand that doesn't have Spring Pour or anything like that, I think I might be getting a little bit too fancy there. Like, even if you hit Divine Shield or Stealth, whatever, let's just get that 4 attack face rolling every single turn.
Yep, and Red T cannot do anything about it this turn unless he wants to tank up Coin Shield Slam, which he's going to do. Well, this sets up Yonsu to quite nicely play the Hyena, knowing that Red T's already had to play one desperate board clear.
Yeah, I think this is probably worth it from Red T. Just think about how much health this is going to save them over the long run. And like you said, this is all the indication that Yuansu needs to just throw that down. Whoa, with the pickup of the Dire Frenzy as well, this is a fairly low value hand, but a really aggressive hand he's got here that maybe could just get him over the finish line right at the start.
Red T just can't do anything about this. I believe the only rush minions in the deck are Ziliax and Warbear.
Okay.
So it's not like he can use the Town Crier for an answer. It's just gonna she'll block up and accept that it's time to take some damage.
Yeah, he's very afraid. I think that if he plays any minion at all there, Spring Paw, Unleash the Hounds, whatever it may be, will rush it and buff up this hyena to undeal-withable levels. Nice play by Yuansu as well. The Dire Frenzy perfectly plays around Super Collider, as it cannot be used to kill off both of them in the next couple of turns. However, the Owl is the answer that I believe Red T is looking for to shut down this hyena.
It is, and Yonsu ends up with pretty much nothing to follow up with now. Yes, he could draw a 2-mana 5/5 hyena, which would be very nice here, but double Unleash the Hounds. Yikes.
Yeah, this is kind of the nightmare scenario. This is... I mean, I say the nightmare scenario. He got one of the most perfect starting curves. It's just the rest of his hand that's really fallen apart, and this is why, you know, traditionally you've seen a lot of players mulliganing very, very aggressively for Deathstalker Rexar, even throwing away Crackling Razormaw. And obviously this is very different to the Death Rattle Hunter decks, in which you only had like Keleseth, Katharina, and Rexar were the only cards that you really cared about at all. Whereas in this one you can get a little bit more damage off at the start, as Yuansu is clearly trying to do. That hero power is just so devastating against the Hunter. Yeah, I like this a lot. Yuansu could have considered going for a brawl there, I guess, as this is likely one of the biggest boards he's going to see from his opponents for a while. But this heals him up. It clears minions off the board right now in case of a top-decked, buffed-up hyena. I think this is the way to go.
Yep, all of Red T's other options looked okay, but none of them looked great, right? Like, otherwise it was Stonehill tank up, or Blackwall Pixie tank up, or the brawl that you mentioned.
Indeed.
But now Yonsu's having to consider playing the second Unleash the Hounds. And it feels so bad when you know that there's 4 Scavenging Hyenas in the deck to use up the second Unleash the Hounds now.
I think he's probably justified in going for a hero power instead of...
Yeah.
Very likely to see at least 2 minions from here on in. And an extra 1/1 on the board for his opponent. It doesn't do much, I don't think. Like, Dynamatic clears the board anyway. There's no Dragonmaw Scorcher in the deck. It just doesn't make much difference in terms of the trades, I think.
Yep. Already Unleash the Hounds is looking better. Still not looking great. Maybe Yonsu can pick up that other Scavenging Hyena now, or one of the many other Scavenging Hyenas now.
I mean, there was no tank up on that turn. Like, the health is getting very low for Red T. And like you said, this Unleash the Hounds, it's not amazing, but it does a little bit just to get that chip damage through to face. And small though that damage may be, maybe from where Yuansu's sat, he's thinking, I can get the damage over. I mean, obviously we can see Blackwall Pixie, Stonehill Defender. There's loads of defensive options to both protect his face with taunts and gain that life through the repetitive tank up hero power. But even so, I think Yuansu, given his hand, is going about this the best way he can with getting in those hero powers now.
And he is getting it real close. Like, we're at the point now where a second kill command would almost be lethal if Yonsu had 1 more mana anyway. Wow, he's going to kill command one of these Phantom Militias. Just to keep all of these minions alive. Really going for the board here.
Yeah, just trying to get it all through to face.
And what's the punish? Brawl, I guess, if Red T wins, is a punish. The tank up Reckless Flurry isn't that bad for Yonsu because Red T doesn't gain any armor that turn if he does that.
It does mean, I mean, obviously Red T can see no cards in hand. There will be no out for lethal on that turn because there's no way you can draw kill command plus a beast.
Yep.
Obviously Master's Call is only going to get you beasts. But I wonder if that's the way he wants to use Reckless Flurry. Like, I think Armani Warbearer is out of the question because just giving your opponent the top deck of kill command is just too risky. Why would you do that? Yeah, this is fine. It's a little bit scary because of top deck Hyena, because you are leaving many minions. Opponent does get Master's Call or Hyena. It could look a little bit scary. Ooh.
Still no second Hyena, so I think he goes for the tracking again, but Kill Command is so much damage.
Kill Command's so tempting. How much damage has he got now? That's 5 on board, 7, 12.
15 health for Red T, so I think it does have to be the tracking, but...
Throws it away, man. That's brutal. But he gets the Master's Call.
Oh, okay.
So important there. So important.
There's a
That's
Hyena.
A buffed up Hyena.
Wait, is it or is it a 2/2 one?
That's a 5/5 one. I just saw it.
Okay. Didn't quite catch the numbers as it was drawn.
And I think he's afraid to overcommit by playing it down here. Pretty devastating, especially because he can obviously get that guaranteed damage to face with Rhino next turn. Like, if he wanted to, he could have saved all of this for full damage to face next turn with Rhino. And I think that's actually what he's going to do. Yeah, I like this a lot. Alarm bells are most assuredly going to be ring-ding-ding-a-ling for T now.
Yeah, Reti has to clear this board. There's no other way about it. And even if he does clear the board, Yansu, as you said, can play all 3 of those minions. And that, at its minimum, is 10 damage. And then if the adapt is Wind Fury, it's 15 damage.
Oh, so Red T here could consider using this Reckless Flurry for 1 damage and then play Stonehill Hero Power. He only leaves 1 minion on the board then after the Blackwall Pixie trade.
I hadn't spotted that. That's really interesting.
Feels rubbish. But he's going for it. Wow. Just because this is the most defensive play he can make. And again, Yuansu's play last turn was so weird. When does your opponent ever play Master's Call? You know they are extremely likely to get a Hyena off of this. They could have traded in all their minions, made like a 12 attack minion or something absurd like that. But they didn't. They chose to hold it back. And I think that pretty strongly indicates Rhino. However, how much damage even would this be? If you can get plus attack or poison on the mole, then that's 5, 10 plus 2, 12 damage, as I count.
Yeah. So, okay. If the mole and the Razor Maul go into the Stonehill Defender, then that's 5, 6, 7 from the Hyena and the Tundra Rhino. And then if it's Wind Fury on the Hyena, then that's 10, 12. This could be lethal. So yeah, he's going for that. He's aiming for Wind Fury here.
And he misses. If he'd gone for poison on the mole, he would have hit it. So wait, how many outs for lethal did he have by adapting the Hyena? Was it plus 3 attack and Wind Fury, or just Wind Fury?
I don't think it was quite lethal if he got the poison on the mole. I think it would have been one off.
Oh no, wait, but the mole wouldn't have died with the trade anyway. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So I don't think there was lethal with that anyway.
So he did go for the only out for lethal that he could. Either way, Red T has 4 damage now. Sorry, 4 health remaining. He could brawl, and if the 3-1 survives, tank up, and he's alive. Super Collider cannot kill the Scavenging Hyena this turn.
I think the Gold Shy Footman may finally be indeed ready for action.
Is he being thrown into a brawl?
He is indeed.
Then again, Money Warbear and tank up to deal with the Tundra Rhino.
Yeah, okay. And then it's 5 health. You're alive.
So the Hyena deals with it, but then the Razor Maul Hero Power goes face. That's 5 damage. Red T has 8 health. But then the second Warbear would deal with the other minion, and then the Hyena would trade into it, which would finish it off, I think.
Or he could go Super Collider, attack into the Rhino, Gold Shy Footman Hero Power.
Oh yeah, that was an option.
He just goes with the full burst and he hits the Razor Maul like an absolute legend. And it does mean that he's now alive.
Yansu has 6 damage available to go face this turn, thanks to the wolf.
That's such a big pickup there in the form of the lion. He has no way of dealing with this high main. just going to have to try and be taunts thrown in the way or a brawl, I suppose.
Ugh. Brawl isn't even good enough. I don't think there's any way Brawl saves
hero
him.
power.
Oh, this plus Brawl and then the... No, because then
it's dead to hero power.
Again. Yeah. So it has to be Warbear into the 1/1. No, then he's still dead.
He's alive at 1 then. He's alive at 1 because it loses the attack. Yeah. Oh, if he goes in this way, yeah. Either way.
This is better. Yeah.
That is the bad hyena as well, unfortunately, for Yuansi. And still, he's so close. He should be able to push this over the finish line, I think, now. But again, these trades made by Red T are awkward. He's doing a very, very good job of making Yuansu's life very difficult indeed. And now, Brawl plus hero power, assuming that obviously the hyena doesn't, might be able to get him there. He's praying.
1 in 4 loses the game right now. Okay.
Again, remember, Red T does not know that kill command was discarded off of track.
Does he hero power or does he stick up a taunt? I mean, you're right. Hero powering is actually either way. He's dead to kill command.
It makes no difference, does it? Yeah, because it makes no difference. I like the taunt. We know now. I think there's very, very little way that he dies.
I can't think of any other ways to go face.
That's a 5/5 there.
Which is going to be a 7/6 if this hyena dies.
1 HP and a dream here for Red T. He is hanging on by absolute skin of his teeth, but he may be able to turn this around. Is he allowed to play Sulfurous here?
No, definitely not.
He probably has to tank up a bit more first, doesn't he?
But this is great. He can just use the Dynamatic to clear up the hyena. He has to trade in his hatchling as well, but
okay,
that's okay. So what are Yansu's outs here? Rexar, I guess, is pretty much it. He only runs the 1 copy of Tundra Rhino. Could there be a Huffer out? I think only 1 companion's been played.
Yeah, I think so too.
So Huffer would be lethal from Yansu.
I guess that's what he's got to go for.
Or Rexar, obviously, can play a slightly longer game.
Yeah.
But potentially get him there.
And he doesn't even have to get lethal right now. Like, if he gets the other high main, just to throw down on the board, that's very scary. Oh my god.
Red T cannot believe what he's seeing. God. As Yansu, whether or not he deserved to get that. I mean, he played for all of the damage he possibly could all game.
I'm glad that Team WE can see the funny side of it. I'm not sure that Team ORD will be feeling quite the same way after that devastating loss right at the end. I mean, you've got to give it up. That was such an excellent effort by Red T to try and stay in that one right through to the bitter end.
He played every single turn just to survive until the next one, and then survive until the next one, and survive until the next one. But it didn't quite make it through.
Not quite in the end. An excellent effort indeed. But I think, you know, to Yuanchu's credit, his gameplay, I think overall showed an aggressive strategy, but I guess a mature aggressive strategy. Like when he had the option to choose kill command there off of the tracking, at first glance, that is the most aggressive option he can make. It gets damage through to face and tries to close out the game as quick as possible. But I think he made the very wise decision to realize what his limitations are. Kill command probably doesn't get there. And if he just goes for damage through to face, Odd Warrior thrives against that. They just tank up every single turn. He had to try and regain board, and he did an excellent job of doing that.
And now 2-0 for mid-range Hunter, as ORD's counter wasn't able to make it through. So they're in dire straits now. This is a horrible position to be in last year's standing.
It is indeed. Sorry, I was taking a large sip of tea there.
How dare you?
Want to do. Delicious.
You're not allowed to drink things.
Oh. Jeez, you sound like my therapist. Here we go. The counter to the Hunter is going to be the Rogue from ORD, and they are
Quest Rogue?
Quest Rogue. Wow. Okay. So this is very interesting because I was thinking up until recently I would have given the exact same reaction. You know, Quest Rogue up against mid-range Hunter. What are you doing, you madman? Because you just get smoked down in the early game. But when I was talking to, or indirectly talking to Bloodyface, I saw him saying that he thinks the Quest Rogue is actually pretty good against these Hunters. I don't know if he was talking specifically about Spellstone version or non-Spellstone version, because this was before the nerfs to Emerald Spellstone. But either way, he was saying he has a very good matchup with the Quest Rogue against these kinds of Hunters. And this is
definitely not what you'd expect.
Sorry, guys.
That's definitely not what you'd expect.
Exactly.
I guess Vanish can do some pretty nasty stuff to the Hunter, but otherwise, I'm really reaching to try and find any favourable draws, really, that the Quest Rogue can find.
Yeah, I agree that it surprised me a little bit, but I guess when you get down to it, like Quest Rogue, although the reputation that it's garnered is that it is an incredibly passive deck in the early game. It doesn't do anything. It just messes about with trying to complete its own quest. But if you play for it, Quest Rogue can fight for the early game not that badly. Like Deckhand, Panda for a 2-mana 3/2. Sonya can be absolutely disgusting if you find that. It's really not that bad. However, this hand is that bad. This hand is a hand that gets mullered.
Okay, at least he's got 2 Wax Elementals, so he maybe has some sort of direction for this quest.
Oh, you need to think really carefully about playing both, because there's a couple of benefits to playing both. Obviously, first and foremost, you're going to take less damage because you have more in the way. Second of all would have been that he could Shadow Step the remaining Wax Elemental on the board to play the Elven Minstrel next turn. However, Strike Right is taking that logic a step further and saying, let's just Shadow Step it right now, so that I can go Wax into the Elven Minstrel next turn. And I think it's actually a really heads-up play.
Yeah, this is the play I was looking at, in that because it guarantees not only the other Wax Elemental still remains in the hand, but he gets to play the Minstrel next turn, draw some more cards, and maybe come to a better decision about the direction he's going with his deck. Maybe he doesn't end up completing it with Wax Elementals, but at least this way, he definitely has the option to.
Oof, Strike Right saying here, I need to clear up this board one way or the other. And the way he's choosing to clean up this board is with his own face. And it is going to hurt. So like, even just Timberwolf on this turn, Timberwolf hero power is huge damage. What is your opponent going to do? Do they then switch over to daggering the Timberwolf and you can hit them again with the Razor Maul once again? I don't know, I guess it's very weak to Fan of Knives is the thing that you're really afraid of.
Wow, that's like the first time Yansu's had a tracking without a kill command in it.
Yeah, okay, I guess I can respect holding back on the Timberwolf, specifically because you can pick up cards like Unleash the Hounds or the Spring Pour as well. But even so, I think it really wouldn't have been that bad there just to get an extra 2 damage through the face, another minion on board, because like Strike Right's just dead in the next couple of turns. There's nothing he can do unless he gets quest completed and heal right now.
Yeah, but no Scale Hide drawn by the Minstrel that turn. Just a couple of Pandas. And they are not going to turbo through this quest very quickly. Mimic Pod is very expensive. If Strike Kite wants to start his turn with that card, he's not going to have many options after that.
That's very expensive. I can't even count that high. That's so expensive. I mean, does he really have any option other than Wax plus Minstrel? Like, he's just got to find a miracle right now. I get that he wants to complete with Wax Mental, so he doesn't want to just throw it down to die. But, like, yeah. He's just got to go for it. Ooh. Okay. I take it back. He does have another line of play. Okay, I guess just hoping to draw some of those minstrels with the, those elementals with the minstrel on the following turn. This is, I guess, one of the two lines of play. The other one being, like, go for the minstrel and just hope you draw Sonya, and then you can go for a Sonya completion on the following turns. This line of play, however, leaves him incredibly open to an assault from Yuan-Su.
Yeah, Strike Right grasps his head as the damage comes in.
This line of play was hopeful, but I don't know, not much had to go wrong there for this to just be absolutely miserable for him.
Is there any way he can find a Bittertide?
It's not that.
Oh, I called it Bittertide again. Scale
right
Hide.
There. As we see, one of the first 3-0s of WE absolutely destroying their opponents. I mean, you were saying at the start, if you don't ban Hunter, it can just 3-0.
Yep.
That's exactly what happens. This is why Hunter is the tier 1 deck at the moment.